Action! You know, even if you're an acquaintance of the kid, it won't stop me from beating you up.
So, I guess this is a rematch then.
Nope, because last time wasn't a real fight. Oh god, is she? Sister! Sunday, August 20th, 2014. Okay, so it's been a while since I wrote in this, but I've been thinking about not just writing court files. I think I'm going to just treat this like an actual journal. The first thing I think I'll write about this is this book series I've been reading. It's a very popular comic series that's getting its third movie based on its live action TV show. It's called Demon Corporation. I really like this series, it has some really cool action. This is a chapter cover. Anyway, I've had a few close calls in my last couple of cases. Like I had to cross-examine an actual 5-year-old. It gets pretty crazy sometimes. It's pretty busy being a lawyer, but it's something I promised I'd become. Wednesday, August 23rd, 2014. Holy banana balls! This craziest of events has just happened today. Remember that movie I wrote about 3 days ago? Yeah, one of the actors involved was arrested because of the death of an actress. Apparently, the actor of Ceres, Malin Foster, was doing a practical stunt involving Nancy Brisket, the actress of Shizuka. During the stunt, Malin was supposed to release a special attack involving acid, but something went wrong. Nancy ended up getting melted by the wave of acid. Everyone thinks Malin was the one who killed her, although I have a feeling that he didn't do it. I have no idea why, but this gut feeling is telling me he's innocent. Breaking news! Famous actress dead! When I got to my office, Heather greeted me at the front entrance. She asked why I was in a pumped up mood, so I told her what happened on the news this morning. She seemed stunned by what I told her, but after a while she asked why I was bringing this up to her. That's when I asked if we should defend him in court. She paused for a bit before saying,
Okay, you can do that, Greg, I guess.
it seemed a bit odd for her, but at least I can get started. Just gotta hope Malin wants to be my defendant. When I got there, I was led into the room by a guard, which is a bit weird. I mean, Ceres is just a character, he can't actually use acid, or at least I thought he wasn't a real person. So, why are you green? Okay, listen, I'm not actually green, they just haven't removed the makeup. Okay. You're gonna be my lawyer, right? Yes, I will be a lawyer. I'd at least expect the police to remove his makeup, but I guess they had no time to do that or they were lazy. I started to ask him what exactly happened that night, but he said that he didn't really know either. It all just happened so fast. All he remembered was that when he flicked the switch on his hand, acid was supposed to explode out of the ground like it was supposed to. But in this case, a huge wall erupted out of the ground, cascading over Nancy. However, Malin was unable to tell what happened after that, as it was too traumatic to describe her body, which is understandable. After getting as much info as possible, I asked for his permission to investigate the studio of the accident. And he told me to wait a bit before calling his manager. They aren't letting anyone in until the police clean up the scene. Welp, that's not good for me. I suppose I'll research more about Malin and the rest of the crew involved with the studio when I got back to my office. However, and asked Heather to help me research, Heather didn't want to help me out. Okay, now this is getting really weird. I know she's not working on the case, right? So why won't she help me out? First things first, I should investigate the crew. Character investigation. Malin Foster, suspect. He's a very experienced actor that's been in the business for 10 years. He played main characters for most of his career, but always seems to have breakout success with side characters. Although many in business don't always trust him, as he tends to be clumsy and careless. Nancy Brisket, victim. wasn't all that experienced in business yet. She only had 3 years of acting, but she was a massive breakout star. She was a protagonist of many TV shows and movies, like Star of the Stars, Beauty and Cole, and Breakfast Wise. It's sad to see someone with such potential be gone so fast. Henrietta Brisket, witness. This is Nancy's older sister. She has been doing this for over 7 years now. She is less popular than her younger sister. She suddenly starred as the main character in a couple one-off movies. She's definitely talented, I can say that. Director Michael May, witness. Director Michael May was the one who was handling the scene and directing what was supposed to happen. This guy is mostly known for directing over-the-top action movies, but this time he decided to scale back the destruction. And I think he's doing a good job. I should ask him first on Thursday. Kubin Valain, witness. I'm not too familiar with this guy, but apparently this guy is a veteran in the industry with over 40 years of work. This guy is a living legend, but those days are long behind him. He currently plays the role of Van Isan Dolph. Thursday, August 24th, 2014. Today was a long day. I've been at the movie studios all day. I was kinda hoping that I could catch a sneak peek at their production behind the scenes, but nobody was there at all. I guess it was out of respect for a fallen actor, which is respectable. The only people there were detectives and police. But then I saw the last person I'd ever expect to see, Prosecutor Rowley. Rowley looked over and must have saw me. All he said was, "Hello, Greg Heffley." I don't blame him after what happened in the school incident. It's understandable. I hurriedly moved past him and onto the crime scene. When I got to the body, I was confused. It was just circle on the floor. So I asked the officer nearby, and he said that was all they could make of her body. And that it was so unrecognizable that they just drew a circle around her. This was a grisly scene, but I had to stomach through it for Malin's sake. It was then when I saw Michael May standing over in the corner of the set talking to detectives. When I was walking towards him, I saw 8 holes in the ground in front of Nancy's body. I got to him. I asked about what happened. He said that they were supposed to shoot where Nancy was supposed to jump out of the way, but she was too close and got melted. When I finished writing all that down, he said I could check both the control room and directing script. I didn't really know what he was talking about until he showed me a pamphlet of paper. He showed me what part of the paper would be important, and I started to read it. What it said was basically that Nancy was supposed to land at a spot marked on the floor, 5 meters away from Malin, 10 meters from Nancy. He was then supposed to pull a pose and click a hidden button on his hand. It was then the acid was supposed to explode from the ground and splash right in front of her, as she was then to jump out of the way safely. Well, seeming how things are now, yeah, that didn't go to plan. So after he gave me that script, I walked over and into the control room. Fanciness aside, this was a cool room, but I didn't want to touch anything, because let's just say, one death is already enough. There was, however, this one switch that said, pump maintenance release, so my curiosity got the best of me. When I looked down at that hatch, I saw several pumps as well as tanks. I looked at the labels and they said, fluorotamonic acid. I think that's the acid they used. I never really paid attention to chemistry, but what I did pay attention to was the 24-liter tank. It was strange because when I was reading the script, it said they were using an 8-liter tank. So why was there a 24-liter tank instead? I ended up writing both the tanks down as evidence. Just gotta hope they'll be useful. Another thing I noticed was the lack of signal down there while the hatch was closed. When I got up and out of the hatch, Detective Roderick was standing above me. He asked how I opened the hatch, which, first of all, there's no way that Roderick can be this dumb, right? Being nice, I decided to help his brain out, explaining how I did it. As a show of thankfulness, Roderick showed me a baggie full of random items. He said that the bag was full of the evidence they had collected so far. Inside was practically nothing, except for 2 things. One was a little hand buzzer, I'm guessing that's what Malin used to perform the stunt. The other one was a gas mask. Roderick said it had to be worn if someone was down there for a long time. So, it's very lucky I was only down there for a minute. It started to get late after that and everyone started to go home. When I was walking to the exit, I saw someone throwing something into a huge trash bin. I couldn't make out their face from where I currently was, so I hurriedly walked over. It was Henrietta. What was she doing? When I got up to her, she said this. What were you just doing?
Oh, right. Michael told me to dump some of the scripts because the movie's canceled.
How would you describe your relationship with your sister?
I would say we had a bit of a mixed relationship, like most siblings. Quick question, who are you?
I'm Mr. Malin's attorney.
Oh, great. You're that lawyer defending my sister's murderer.
Okay, that was really strange, but I can understand why someone might act like that, seeing how I'm the guy defending the guy who might have murdered her sister. First dumping garbage, then calm to anger? What's with that woman? After she started to walk away, I decided to take a peek at what she threw away. I looked in the bin and saw the Demon Corporation Movie 3 scripts? Why was that in there? For a second I thought I had lost the script, but when I checked my pocket, it was still there. I started to flip through this mysterious book and noticed something weird. When I got to the page about the choreography between Ceres and Shizuka, something was really off. Not only was the handwriting different, but the book I got from Michael said 4 meters while this one said 10. I couldn't take both with me, however, since I had no room in my pockets left, so I would have to ask him tomorrow, because the first is starting soon. Friday, August 25th, 2014. Today was the first day of the trial. Before the trial actually began, I was informed that the prosecution was going to be Raleigh Jefferson, which got me a little nervous. I've heard how ruthless he is now. What also got me nervous was that there was a random guy in the defendant's lobby. Or at least I thought it was a random guy until I realized it was Malin. I had never actually seen him without the makeup and costume on. Anyway, now he was looking a lot more normal. The bailiff's calling us now, so we have to get a move on. When we went inside the courthouse, there was a large amount of people, larger than normal, but I guess it makes sense due to the fact that Malin was a famous star. Albert then walked in, and I was immediately reminded about Malin's current situation. With a judge like him, he may as well surrender, but that was his concern. My concern was Rowley. He hadn't said anything up to this point, which made me even more nervous when I already was. But there was no time for sweating. I had a job to do. Court is now in session for the trial of Malin Foster. Is the defense and prosecution ready? Ready, I said. But Rowley wasn't saying anything. The judge asked him again and he finally spoke. Fools. Of course I'm ready. I was waiting for you. Rowley then went on to state that no man should be convicted without proof, and that was his biggest pet peeve, and that he was going to thoroughly prove that Malin killed Nancy. Rowley then called his first witness to the stand, Detective Roderick. I had a feeling it would be him, just hope he's not as dumb as the last time. Before long, Roderick started his first testimony, and this case truly began. It was August 22nd at around 6:37 p.m. The studio was performing its last stunt of the day. Malin showed up late. It was during that shoot that Malin waited till Nancy was close enough to the blast before he used his special attack and killed her. We assumed during that time he tampered with the stage equipment. I think that should be tampered. Damn, why are there so much errors here? From what I got from his testimony, it was that they arrested Malin on the fact that he was gone for some time before the shoot. I didn't have much to go off of, so I decided to press him a bit more. Started off with the tampering bit. I asked him how Malin could have tampered with the stage equipment. Roderick said that he went under the set using the hatch and that he then switched the acidic tanks, which is wrong. I was the only reason he found the hatch. I was about to object to his statement, but Raleigh cut me off. Exactly. There's no way he could have gone down there without taking the time to use a gas mask. This explains why he was late. Rowley is just as smart as the rumors said he was. Roderick showed a sigh of relief, and Albert proceeded to talk with the other jury member for a minute. This can't be good. I haven't even made my counter-argument. Hopefully he isn't casting his verdict. Rowley is just as smart as the rumors said he was. Roderick showed a sigh of relief as Albert proceeded to talk with the other jury member for a minute. That can't be good. I haven't even made my counter-argument. Hopefully he isn't casting his verdict. I've heard enough. I'm ready to cast my verdict. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. This court finds the defendant, Malin Foster. Objection! The judge was confused. Rowley had objected before he then began to speak and forever changed this trial. Prosecutor Rowley, what's the meaning of this? Your Honor, aren't you forgetting that what I hate most? No man should be convicted without proof. That is my pet peeve. I guess Rowley is really sticking to his principles. This is good for me because I get a second chance. The detective was then dismissed from the courtroom and Rowley called in his next witness. Cobain Valet? I didn't think he was on the stand today. I thought Rowley would bring in someone else, or at least someone who wasn't as scary as that guy. Because sure, I almost pissed myself when he entered. Boo. Ah! I was almost scared half to death. This guy made the room a lot more gloomy for some reason. Maybe because of how scary he looked. He looked like a dead man walking. Probably from his old age, but there was no time to be scared. I had to make do with his second wind. Cobain began to speak, and he made the atmosphere even creepier with his voice. I get why he was picked for the role of Van Isondorf. He then started his testimony. When the scene was being filmed, I could tell something was slightly off. I couldn't really see out of the costume, but I was able to see both of them. It was then I saw Nancy die. Hold it! That testimony was really vague, but from what I could understand was that Cobain couldn't really see out of his costume. Seeing this as a crutch to hold on to, I asked him about the costume visibility, and he said that they weren't the best. That gave me an answer, but it also made me think. I can't disprove the fact that everyone saw Malin do it, but I have to prove that he didn't mean to kill Nancy. Maybe I could read Rowley into a trap of my own. From what you're saying, there's no way you or Malin could have properly seen what was happening. You're saying my vision's bad, kid? Not your vision, the costume's vision. It looked like he didn't know what I was talking about, but luckily I knew for the most part. I said that we couldn't trust his testimony and that Rowley should find a better witness, and just like a plan, he took the bait. Oh really, Greg Heffley? Cobain may be old, but his sight is fine. I wasn't talking about Cobain. Cobain's suit had poor vision, then wouldn't it be the same for Malin? If Cobain couldn't properly see what was happening, then most likely Malin couldn't either. How would he know when to press the hand button? That would require him to clearly see where the victim was standing. The gallery was in shock at this revelation, and it took a while for the judge to quell them. But once they were silent, Rowley focused again, and he had a grin on his face. Oh, I get it now. You're trying to pull a fast one, Greg, and I've already planned ahead. Mr. Cobain, repeat the second line of your testimony. Sure. I could tell something was slightly off. I believe that's what you should be worried about. That made me queasy. He was right. I probably should have asked him about that as well. Anyway, the judge said he believed that Cobain should have another testimony to clear things up. And so Cobain started his next testimony, and things got a lot more interesting. I got to the shoot of the event, but I could tell something was off. However, the thing that caught my eye was Nancy. She was way closer than usual. It was odd because it wasn't in the script. Well, that gave more questions than theories, but the biggest on my mind was what he meant by closer. Kubain said that she was closer to the spot marked on the script, and that normally she was to be farther back. That reminded me of the scripts I had. You mean this one? Yeah, that one. But as soon as I presented that to him, Rowley presented something to him as well. Talking about this one? Yeah? Did Michael give Rowley another copy? It was then that I realized that was a copy of the script that was the one I found in the dumpster. Did he see Henrietta throw it in a dumpster too? When Kubain saw them both, he struggled to come up with an answer. I've seen those scripts before. Both of them, they look identical. That sent the gallery into a spiral. They could not calm down. How could there be two scripts they were probably thinking of? I didn't even know. Riley looked frustrated and confused, holding his head in his hands. What do you mean you saw both? This courtroom is a freaking mess. Where in the world is the case going? The judge slammed his gavel and commanded order for some time before the gallery was quelled. Albert was in pause for a while until eventually he opened his eyes and said, "We have come to an impasse. Both the defense and the prosecution have proven faults in both cases. With this new revelation as well, I find it unlawful to pass my verdict. The trial is therefore suspended for today." Your Honor, please, there's no need to suspend the trial today. I haven't even explained the accused motive yet. No. There is no need to continue. Plus, my 3-liter sour cream and pineapple yogurt coupon is about to expire. Well, that was a shocking ordeal. After several hours, this trial finally came to an end. Now that it's over though, it's left with a lot more questions. I think my plan for tomorrow is to first talk to Michael, then maybe Kubain, and lastly Henrietta. Friday, August 25th. When I arrived back at the studio set, I noticed something was different. They had turned Nancy's body outline from a circle to a square. Either we have some of the most incompetent police in plain view, or they were just lazy. But there were more pressing matters than a corpse, or wait, maybe not actually. After a couple of minutes of looking for Michael, I ended up finding Detective Roderick instead. I was a bit mad at him for making me look like an idiot, but I didn't want to ruin his moment. So I just asked him where Michael May was, and he said the last time he saw him was in his trailer. So taking his advice, I went over to the trailer, but when I opened it, it was empty. It was eerie inside an empty trailer, but there were all these posters and ideas marked on a wall. But then out of nowhere, Kubain jump scared me from behind again. Hello. Why does he always have to do that? After I calmed down, I asked Kubain not to do that. He said he was sorry, so I guess that makes it a little better. I then said I wanted to ask him about his comment at the end of yesterday's trial so that I could learn more about what happened. Thankfully, he agreed and told me exactly what he saw. At the start of rehearsal, we were each shown the script. We rehearsed the act multiple times, so I had memorized the script pretty well. But when I was shown this script, something looked wrong. But when you and Rowley presented both the scripts, I could finally see it. Both the handwritings and the numbers were off. The script I'd memorized said 10 meters, but the one I saw said 4. And to boot, the handwriting looked funny. Bingo! That was the clarification I needed. But now, the thing was, why did Michael change the script? Is he the murderer? Before I left, I asked him to write down what he said, and he did. Note: Kubain's testimony added to evidence. After our little chat, he left. Gotta say, even after getting to know him a little more, he still is creepy as fuck. But at least I have a proper testimony now. Both me and Kubain noticed the exact same things, which is definitely not a coincidence. It took a while to find Michael, but I eventually found him near a food vendor. Not sure why they have food vendors inside a movie studio, especially when there's been a murder. I approached Michael. He looked sad while he ate, so to get the ball rolling, I asked him what was wrong. I was a little happy at first because now I don't gotta pay her a fortune. But now my movie's canceled, all because of that stupid girl. So I just asked about the movie in general to cheer him up. He reluctantly sighed and said that it was going to be his biggest one yet, and there was going to be big explosions, intense action, and pink bubblegum zombies. I haven't read that far in the series yet, so I can't tell if he's lying or not. He seemed to be in a better mood, so I asked him about the script. He said that he wrote based on the comic for the most part, but then he started to go off topic and talk about who he was with that day. He said that for some reason Henrietta was sitting behind him when the accident happened. He said that the technician was supposed to sit there, but then he saw that it was her in the chair, so he didn't do anything. At that point though, I just told him to tell me about the script. Oh, you want to know who wrote it? Well, yeah, looking at the best writer of the set. I mean what they mean. Oh, that. Well, I won't tell you that, silly, because Rowley told me not to tell you anything. Fucking Rowley, man. Had him brainwashed. Well, there goes my answers. Heck, I could even see him smirk as I walked away. Now that I can't talk to him, I'm going to have to find someone else. Luckily, I think I know more than one person who might help. Henrietta. It took a while to find her, but eventually I did. She looked a bit grumpy. At this point though, I was grumpy too. So, that evened things out. I asked her the simplest question I could think of. Did you love your sister? At all?
Yes, of course I did, just like everyone else did.
She spoke with a sense of urgency, like she was trying to avoid talking about her sister. I was going to be stubborn, but then I decided it wasn't worth my time anymore. Being at my last straw, I asked the only person who was on my side. Do you know anything about Nancy and Henrietta's relationship? From what I know, it seemed Henrietta hated her sister somewhat, but I'm not sure. If you really want to know, try asking a fan because they'll probably know. Malin didn't know and Kubain didn't know. Then who would? But then something clicked in my head. Malin said I should ask a fan, and Heather had been acting strange. So through logical deduction, I came to realize that Heather was a fan of Nancy? The only way to find out with my new hypothesis was to confront her. You're a Nancy Brisket fan. That's why you've been ignoring me. It's because you can't forgive Malin, even if he's innocent.
Yeah, you're right. I can't forgive Malin. That's why I refuse to help you.
Well, now I know the truth of why she's acting like this, but I guess I can't blame her. Losing your idol can be pretty sad. At least she has a reason, but it's not the only thing I came to talk to her about. Do you know anything about their relationship?
From what I read and watched, Henrietta was pretty jealous of her sister's success. Apparently Nancy was always better than her.
Finally, something useful for the case. I guess I should go to their trailers now. A couple of hours later, I got back, and I went inside Henrietta's first. Luckily, she wasn't there. I had to say, her trailer was kinda boring. Not many things of note in there. She had 2 Oscars, but that was about it. But when I got to Nancy's trailer, it became abundantly clear why Henrietta resented her. She must have had at least 20 Oscars in that room. No wonder why her sister hates her. Now that I think of it though, Henrietta also has a clear motive. Maybe when she was near the dumpster, she was disposing of evidence. I went back to the dumpster to look for more evidence, and lo and behold, there was more stuff in there. The first item I saw was a sign with her name on it. It was probably useless, but I kept it. The other was this weird device. It looked like a radio, but with lots of buttons. I did some googling, it turns out it was a tampering device. I think I can loosely put together what happened now, but I'll have to wait for tomorrow to find out once and for all. Saturday, August 26. Today is the last day of the trial. Hopefully, I'm confident I can do this by myself, or at least I was going to do it by myself until Heather showed up.
Greg, I decided to look past my opinion. I'm gonna try and help you.
I was going to say that it was okay and that I can do this by myself,
But the bailiff interrupted me and said the court was about to start. So I guess I'm stuck with her. At least she had changed her mind. So, what's your train of thought so far, Greg? Well, currently as it stands, the most obvious things are someone tampered with Malin and someone swapped both the signs and script. Who are top suspects? Hard to say. I know for a fact it wasn't Malin. It can't be Kubain. No way he'd tell all that information. I guess Michael is a suspect? He did only perk up after mentioning Rowley. Henrietta is too depressed to talk, however the evidence is pointing to her. It was then the judge called us in. Court is now in session for the final trial of Malin Foster. Are the defense and prosecution ready? Ready, Your Honor. Ready, Your Honor. The prosecution called its first witness, Michael May. Now is my time to finally get him to answer my questions. Michael still looked upset over the fact that his movie was cancelled due to Nancy's death, but there wasn't much I can do about it, so he'll just need to man up and deal with it. Which isn't that hard, to me at least. I mean, the manliest thing I've done is confront the geese outside my house. On the day of the murder, everything was going to plan. Everyone was in position, just like I posted. But then, it happened. Allow the court to see this poster. This was the post Michael was talking about. As you can see, it has all the placement details of the actors and crew sets. The judge called the poster into evidence, so I have more to work with now. This is going to help with my master plan. My first question was who was standing where. Thankfully, Michael answered truthfully and said that everyone was in the right place, or at least to what Rowley thought was correct, because the script I had was different, so I objected to Rowley's legitimate evidence. Rowley, I'm not sure your evidence is correct. The script you're showing has the wrong handwriting. I explained my point, being that there was no way of knowing which one Michael had written and which had been used. I even got a smirk from Heather. I guess she can tell I can handle the case on my own now. Who knows, maybe I'll take her place as head of the company if I'm lucky, but I don't think that's likely, unless something bad happens to her, more importantly. I said that Michael should take a handwriting analysis to see which was which. The judge agreed. He said that the court would reconvene after a 10-minute break. So far, things are going according to plan. After the 10-minute break was up, Heather asked what my plan was, but I told her that now was not the time, and Rowley began to speak about the test results. The results for the scripts are 100% and 67% match. There was an audible pause in the gallery. A 33% difference may not be that much, but does certainly bring into question where the difference came from. To quote Albert himself, "What exactly does this mean?" Well, apparently Rowley knew, but what he didn't know was my plan. Everyone here must know at this point, the script Greg has is a fake. Objection! I wouldn't be too sure, Rowley. While yes, yours was written by Michael himself, it wasn't the one used that day. Of course, however, the court had many questions, and I was prepared to answer them. The first, how did I know that was the one found on set? Kubain's writing notes saying that he saw it. Take that! It contradicts Michael's poster, of course. In the poster, we clearly see everyone, but in the script he showed us, it shows something different. You all must finally see it now. The only one out of place is Henrietta. We must summon her to testify. Rowley tried to object, saying that this is ludicrous thinking, but at this point he was kinda sidelined. But eventually there was no denying that I had a point, which then led to Rowley caving and saying I was right. Before long, he asked the judge for a half-hour break to prepare his witness. While we were waiting for Rowley's witness, I finally told Heather and Malin my plan. You see, my plan was to get Henrietta involved, because of what I found earlier, by finding a flaw in Michael's testimony. Then I had to prove how it connected to Henrietta. My last step was to prove that she was the culprit. Heather gave me a shocked expression, She said that she couldn't believe Henrietta would go so far to kill her own sister, but Melan just sat in silence, and after a while he started talking. I guess I should have seen this coming. I had a feeling about Henrietta. Like how she has a grudge. It's too late now, however. If only she knew how her sister felt. How did she feel about her? Um, Never mind. After a little chat about how we all felt, the bailiff called us in for one final time. Time to end this trial once and for all. Court has reconvened for the final session of the trial of Malin Foster. In walked Henrietta. She had cold elegance to her as not even a 2-ton explosion could move her. Heather and I could sense that she was going to be difficult. Not only the fact that she didn't like me, she was also trying her hardest to get away with murder. So you bet your darnest she was going to be vague.
So, tell me, why exactly am I here again? This seems pointless.
Oh, don't worry, you'll know soon enough. Henrietta then began to recall her side of what happened.
In my opinion, this is a complete waste of my time. Why would I have anything to do with the script? I'd barely written anything during my time at this movie. That's Michael's job. He's the one who with the knowledge.
I knew I had to question her hard and fast, but I just had to find where to strike her. My first attempt didn't go so great. I tried saying why she was the only one out of place, but she shot me down pretty quick.
The only one? What about Cobain and Nancy? I'd say those two were pretty out of place.
What made it even worse was that Rowley said I should be penalized for any wrong assumption, whatever the fuck that means. Well, great. Now I have a strike on my court record. In order to get Henrietta to reveal new information to me, I had to find a way to make her say it unintentionally. I started flipping through my evidence, but everywhere I read, I hit a dead end. The looming fear of defeat was setting in. Or until Heather said this to me.
Greg, think outside the box. You can't prove that Henrietta wrote that script. That's true. But maybe you can prove that someone else couldn't.
Those words spoke to me. She was right. There must be some way to prove that she was connected somehow. But then all of a sudden it clicked. The sign. If it weren't for her reminding me, I would never have remembered I had that on me. Thanks to her, I was able to press Henrietta. Henrietta, when you mean barely written anything, you mean you only wrote a few things.
The only thing I wrote on was the seating signs.
Alright then. What would you say if we analyzed the writing on the sign then? Maybe then she can finally solve who wrote the script. She seemed to slightly be rattled by my statement before she quickly regained her composure. She said that it was impossible to analyze the handwriting off of just the sign, and that we weren't going to find anything. But luckily, I had an objection just for that. Objection! Whoever said I was going to analyze your handwriting. I then stated that we were going to test Michael's handwriting to see if it matched. The crowd went into an uproar, so much so that it took a couple of minutes for them to calm down, and Albert had to regain order. Albert then orders Rowley to have Michael take a handwriting test for the sign. A few minutes later, we got the results, and just like I assumed, they came back with a 33% match. With the test coming back to 33% for the sign and 67% for the script, I could substantially prove Henrietta was connected to the murder. Just as I thought. The test has come back the complete opposite. This can only mean that you were the one who copied the script. Your Honor, I'd like Henrietta to give us another testimony about what she was really doing that day. Rowley looked a bit flustered at my objection, but Henrietta had daggers in her eyes, before quickly composing herself. Albert then asked the witness to testify about what she really saw, but Henrietta wasn't having any of it. Very well. Witness, tell us what...
Hold on a minute. How can you prove the scripts were different on the day of murder? It could have been swapped before or after.
I'm afraid I can.
What?
Take a look at this written statement from Mr. Cobain. He clearly said that he noticed something was with the script that day. That proves it was changed. My question was finally making an impact on her. I could start to see her sweating. However, Rowley cut in and said that even if she was the one who messed up with the script, her seating next to the director had no bearing on the accident itself, because Malin ultimately pulled the trigger. Actually, it does have bearing on the case. For example, if someone was to use a tampering device, they could easily mess with the set.
So you say, Greg Heffley. Let's see where your delusions lead you. Witness, please testify about why you were there in the first place.
The judge told Henrietta she had to testify again, so she did.
And well, she didn't do good this time.
I could tell she had no good excuses.
The reason why I sat there was because I wanted to see what the fight would look like through a camera. But while I was there, I got curious what was under the hat, so I opened it. It was then I saw the 8-liter acid tanks. I thought I'd get yelled at if I stayed too long down there, so I left as fast as possible and accidentally left that hatch open.
It appeared she was starting to slip up, but it wasn't much of a slip, but it was enough to get me somewhere. In her testimony, she stated that she sat there to look at acid for some reason, but in order to do that, she would have to wear a gas mask to avoid the toxic fumes. But an even bigger contradiction was what was in the hatch itself, from what I remember when I went down there 2 days ago. The connection systems that operated Malin's hand bottom were down there, meaning the only way to tamper with Malin was to keep the hatch open in order to not lose signal.
Another thing I noticed was the lack of signal down there while the hatch was closed.
Mrs. Henrietta, I believe you have made a mistake in your own lie. You see, the only way for you to have tampered with Malin's hand switch was to open the maintenance hatch. Basically, Henrietta lied to protect herself, but her own lie ended up contradicting itself. And for once, Rowley also seemed to agree. Even the judge agreed that Henrietta could now be considered a suspect. But the objection didn't stop there, however, because I finally decided to put the nail in her coffin. Furthermore, I know exactly how you did it. You used the gas mask that Detective Roderick found.
What? Objection! While on paper your logical contradictions might make sense, your points are only as good as the truth. How can you explain to the court your random series of events?
Dang, Rowley is putting me on the spot. Well, I guess there's no going back now. Time to put my theory to the test. I hope I didn't stutter. Firstly, she managed to mess with the script somehow. Secondly, she swapped the acid tanks in order to kill her sister for sure. Thirdly, she then placed the fake sign to make sure nobody was suspicious she was next to the hatch. Fourthly, she opened the hatch right before the shoot, which was to connect the tampering device, remembering to leave it open. Fifth, she then used the gas mask to get down there safely. After that, Henrietta used the tampering device to frame Malin for murder. And finally, she dumped the evidence into the trash can so nobody would find it. I swear, I could hear Rowley thinking in his oversized head, for good reason that is. Albert then asked Rowley what he was thinking about.
Well, what I think is that's hot garbage.
Henrietta had cut in and started a tirade about how stupid lawyers are and that I have no proof.
Like, bitch, you have no proof.
Thinking back, however, my case was a little messy, so she wasn't entirely wrong. Rowley, however,
she's right, Greg Heffley. You lack the biggest factor in this case, a motive.
How could you?
How could you accuse me of killing my own sister?
Wow, the audacity to pull out the crocodile tears. Even after all I've said, she still gets away with this? There wasn't much time left until the trial would end, so I have to think of something now. Decisive evidence would be handy right now, and I was out of options. Think.
You're right, Henrietta. I don't have concrete proof, but I don't need it to prove my case. Whatever you say, it's probably irrelevant. Have a look at all these trophies Nancy won. Yeah, right. She doesn't have that many. Another one, another one, another one. Stop it! You're lying! She couldn't have had that many Oscars. She wasn't even that good. I'm sorry, Henrietta, but these are all real. And that's exactly the reason why you killed her. All over your stupid ego and resentment over your sister. Make him stop! He's lying! It's not true! Fine. You win. I guess I'll admit it. I'm the one who killed her. And just like that, Henrietta admitted she killed her sister. After which there was this wave of calm. Like a huge cloud was lifted off of everyone. I could even see a smile on Malin's face. Heather also looked relieved as well. Except for Rowley, who looked like he was going to explode. I'd like to say one thing, and that one thing is, Nancy really did think you were the better actor. A few nights ago, she told me that she didn't feel like she deserved all the attention she got, and how after this she wanted to put in a good word for you. What have I done? You, Greg Heffley. After Rowley calmed down, the judge asked what they were going to do to Henrietta. They're arresting her as we speak, he said. Albert said that he was finally ready to get this case over with, and that he was ready to hand down his verdict. Right before the judge was about to pass his verdict, Malin asked that Henrietta be called in to hear something. What was he going to say? I was thinking he was going to chew her out for framing him for murder, but he started to talk about something else. That part almost broke me. I thought someone like Henrietta was heartless, but deep down, she still had feelings for her sister. The judge asked what was going to happen to Henrietta now, and Riley said that she was going to jail. The judge said he was ready to cast his final verdict. I, the judge, have finally reached my verdict. I find the defendant, Malin Foster, not guilty. And with that, this case can be finally closed, and I can get paid for all my hard work. Plus, I know Malin got some serious cash on him. When we reconvened, he thanked me and said he'll send us, technically it should be just me, the payment for being his attorney. But then he showed me something that I had no idea how he got. Where in the world did he get these? Apparently, Michael May had sweet-talked some of the movie company's executives and made a deal that the first half of the movie would be live action, and all the parts that they didn't film would be digitally animated. After hearing that, I was a lot happier. When the movie is finally released, he's gonna take me and Heather to the Hollywood premiere. So that's great. After all that's happened this week, I think I'm all out of words. So I think it's time I close this case. For good.